Now starting another original tale from Korafika Tales, an exclusive work from our publishing house, narrated by Joanne. Enjoy the story. He opened the wrong door and saw his entire life shatter in a hospital room. The woman who disappeared without explanation. The woman he searched for across 3 cities. She was there, holding a newborn with his dark eyes and silent stare. She ran 9 months ago. Now he knows why. She was pregnant, and she hid everything. Because when you're the most feared man in the underground, the people you love become targets. But he just became a father. And nothing, not his empire, not his enemies, not even her fear, will keep him from his daughter. This is the story of the king who lost his queen and found his reason to live. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and endings. Jae-min Kang hated hospitals. They reminded him of weakness, of mortality, of things he couldn't control with money or muscle. But his second-in-command had been shot during a territorial dispute 3 nights ago, and loyalty meant showing up, even in places that made his skin crawl. He was 29 years old and had never stayed in one long enough to learn the layout. Room 447, 4th floor, East Wing. He pushed the door open without knocking, because men like him didn't wait for permission, and froze. The woman sitting in the chair by the window didn't belong in his world anymore. She'd left it 9 months ago. Vanished like smoke. No goodbye. No explanation. Just an empty apartment, and a silence so loud it had nearly destroyed him. Her name was Amara, and she was holding a baby. The air left his lungs. She looked up slowly, her dark eyes wide with something between terror and exhaustion. The kind of tired that lives in your bones. Her hair was wrapped in a soft scarf, her skin glowing even under the fluorescent lights. She'd always been beautiful, the kind of beauty that didn't need anything but presence. But it was the baby that gutted him. Tiny, fragile, wrapped in a pale pink blanket, and staring at him with eyes he'd seen in the mirror his entire life. Jae-min. Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. He couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. His mind was racing, trying to solve a puzzle with pieces that didn't fit. She was here. She was holding a baby. A newborn. 9 months. She left 9 months ago. His gaze dropped to the infant again. The shape of her nose. The sharp line of her brow. The way her little fists curled against the blanket like she was already ready to fight the world. Is she... His voice came out rough. Broken. He didn't recognize it. Amara's hands tightened around the baby, protective and trembling. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Just silence. The kind that screamed everything. He stepped closer. Slowly. Like approaching something fragile and wild at the same time. Is she mine? It wasn't a question. Amara closed her eyes and a tear slipped down her cheek. She nodded. Once. Small, devastating. The floor beneath him tilted. He was a father, Jae-min Kang, the man who controlled half the underground trade on the East Coast. The man senators feared and rivals avoided. The man who'd built an empire on calculated violence and cold strategy was a father. And he'd had no idea. Why didn't you tell me? His voice was quiet now. Dangerously quiet. She flinched. Because you would have made me stay. Damn right I would have. And she would have been a target. Amara's voice broke, raw and fierce. Every enemy you have, every rival who wants to hurt you, they would have used her, used me. I couldn't... She choked on the words. I couldn't let her grow up in that. He wanted to rage, to demand, to make her understand that she had no right to make that choice alone. But she wasn't wrong. His world was violence, blood, power plays and body counts. He'd buried colleagues, friends, people who got too close to the wrong deal. And if his enemies knew he had a daughter, he clenched his jaw so hard it ached. The baby stirred, making a soft sound. Not quite a cry, just a murmur of existence. And something inside him cracked open. Something he didn't have a name for. What's her name? He asked. Amara hesitated. Then softly. Hana. Hana. One. The only one. He moved closer, slowly lowering himself into the chair beside her. His presence filled the small room like a storm, but he forced himself to be still. Gentle, because this moment wasn't about him. "Can I—" He stopped, swallowed. "Can I hold her?" Amara looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for something. Maybe trust. Maybe proof that he wouldn't take Hana and disappear. Maybe just confirmation that he was real. Then she shifted, carefully placing the tiny bundle into his arms. Jamin had held guns, knives, weapons designed to end lives. But he'd never held anything this small. This warm, this impossibly terrifyingly alive. Hana blinked up at him with dark, serious eyes. She didn't cry, didn't fuss, just stared at him like she was deciding whether he was worth knowing. And in that moment, everything he thought he knew about himself shattered. Because power didn't matter. Money didn't matter. The empire he'd built with blood and fear didn't matter. All that mattered was this. Her. "I'm sorry," Amara whispered. "I thought I was protecting her." He didn't look away from Hana. "You were. But you deserve to know." "Yeah." His voice was rough. "I did." Silence settled between them. Not comfortable, not easy, but real. "I'm not letting you disappear again," he said quietly. Amara's breath hitched. "Jamin, I don't care what it takes. I'll make it safe. I'll burn down anyone who even thinks about touching her." He finally looked up, his eyes locking with hers. "But you don't run from me again. Ever." She searched his face, and whatever she saw there made her shoulders sag. Relief, fear, exhaustion, all of it. "Okay," she whispered. He looked back down at Hana, at this impossibly small person who'd just rewritten his entire life. And for the first time in years, Jamin Kang had no plan, no strategy, no calculated next move. He just had hope. The next morning came too fast. Jamin hadn't slept. He'd stayed in that hospital room all night, sitting in the chair by the window while Amara dozed in the bed and Hana slept in the bassinet. He'd watched them both like a man guarding the only treasure that mattered. Because it was. When dawn broke through the blinds, soft and gray, Amara stirred. Her eyes found him immediately, and for a moment she looked surprised, like she'd expected him to be gone, like she still didn't believe he was real. "You stayed," she murmured. "Did you think I wouldn't?" She sat up slowly, wincing. The exhaustion in her face was deeper than one sleepless night. This was months of fear, of hiding, of doing everything alone. "I don't know what I thought," she admitted. Hana made a small sound, and Amara's entire body shifted into mother mode. Instinct. Protection. She lifted the baby gently, cradling her close, and Jamin watched the way Hana's tiny hand curled around Amara's finger. "When did you know?" he asked quietly. Amara didn't look at him. 2 weeks after I left." His chest tightened. "You knew for 9 months. I couldn't come back, Jamin." Her voice was firm, but there was pain beneath it. "You don't understand what it's like. Being with you meant looking over my shoulder every second, wondering if the person behind me in line at the coffee shop was watching, if the car parked outside my building was coincidence or surveillance. I loved you. God, I loved you. But I couldn't live like that. So you ran. So I survived." She finally met his eyes. "And when I found out I was pregnant, I knew I had 2 choices. Come back and raise her in your world, or leave and give her a chance at something normal." "Normal," he repeated, the word tasting bitter. "Yes, normal. School, friends, a childhood that isn't about fear." Amara's voice wavered. "I grew up in a neighborhood where gunshots were background noise. I know what it's like to be afraid all the time. I didn't want that for her." Jamin leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. "You think I don't want the same thing? I think you can't give it to her." The words hung in the air, brutal and honest. "Not while you're still what? A criminal?" His tone was sharp, but not angry, just raw. Still the king of an empire built on danger. He looked at her. Really looked. At the woman who'd walked away from him because she'd been brave enough to choose their daughter over love. Who'd carried Hana alone. given birth alone, faced every terrifying, beautiful moment of new motherhood without him, and he hated that she was right. "I can't just walk away from it," he said quietly. "You know that." "I do. But I can make changes, restructure, distance myself from the violent side." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration simmering under his skin. "I built it, Amara. I can control it." "Can you?" She shifted Hana to her other arm, her gaze never leaving his. "Because the minute your rivals know you have a daughter, she becomes a weapon they'll use against you. Then I eliminate the rivals. And then new ones come. And then more. It never ends, Jamin. You know it doesn't." Silence. He wanted to argue, to promise her he could fix it, make it safe, build walls high enough that nothing could touch them. But he'd spent his entire adult life in this world. He knew how it worked. Loyalty was currency. Power was survival. And family was the crack in the armor that enemies exploited. "So what do you want?" he asked, his voice low. "You want me to just not be her father?" Amara's eyes filled with tears. "No. I want you to figure out how to be her father without getting her killed." The truth of it landed like a punch. Hana yawned, a tiny, perfect sound, and both of them glanced down at her. She was oblivious, safe, innocent, for now. "I'll figure it out," Jamin said finally. "I don't know how yet, but I will." Amara studied him for a long moment. Then she stood, moving carefully, and walked over to him. She held Hana out, offering her. "Then start by holding your daughter," she said softly, "because she deserves to know you. The real you. Not the king. Not the crime lord. Just Jamin." He took Hana into his arms, and again that overwhelming wave of something crashed over him. Responsibility. Terror. Love. "Hey, sweetheart," he murmured, his voice dropping into something gentle. "I'm your dad, and I know I'm late. I know I missed the beginning. But I'm here now." He looked up at Amara. "And I'm not going anywhere." Amara wiped at her eyes, nodding. Okay. It wasn't a solution. It wasn't a plan. But it was a start. Later that day, Jamin's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. His second in command, Min Jun, the one who'd been shot and was recovering 2 floors down. "Boss, we have a problem." Jamin's jaw tightened. He looked at Amara, who was resting with Hana asleep on her chest. "I need to make a call," he said quietly. She nodded, understanding without words. He stepped into the hallway, pressing the phone to his ear. "What is it?" "Chen's crew is moving on the docks. They know you're distracted." Word spreading. Of course it was. Jamin closed his eyes, exhaling slowly. "Handle it." "Handle it how?" "However you need to. Just keep it quiet." A pause. Then, "You okay, boss?" "Yeah." He glanced back at the room, at Amara, at Hana. "I will be." He ended the call and stood there for a moment, the weight of 2 worlds pressing down on his shoulders. The old world, built on fear and control, and the new one, built on a baby's heartbeat and a woman's hope. He didn't know how to reconcile them yet, but he had to, because walking away wasn't an option, and losing them wasn't either. 3 days later, Amara was discharged. Jamin had arranged everything, a private car, security, subtle, invisible. But there, a penthouse apartment in a building he owned, 20 floors up with bulletproof windows and a security system that could lock down in seconds. She hadn't argued. Maybe because she was too tired. Maybe because deep down she knew he was right. The world he lived in didn't care about good intentions. The apartment was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Soft, neutral tones. A nursery that had been fully stocked in 72 hours. Crib, changing table, rocking chair. Everything a baby could need. Amara stood in the doorway of the nursery, Hana in her arms, staring at the space with an unreadable expression. "You didn't have to do all this," she said quietly. Jamin leaned against the doorframe, hands in his pockets. "Yes, I did. It's too much. It's not enough." She turned to look at him, and something flickered in her eyes. Gratitude, fear, the knowledge that every gift came with invisible strings. "I'm not trying to control you," he added, reading her. "I'm trying to keep you safe. I know." She looked back at the nursery. "But this isn't the life I wanted for her." "What did you want?" "A small apartment, a neighborhood with parks, other moms, play dates." Amara's voice was soft, wistful. "Normal things. You can still have that." "Can I?" She met his gaze. "Because the second I step outside, your enemies know where I am, where she is." He didn't have an answer for that. Because she was right. Hana stirred, making soft baby sounds, and Amara shifted her gently. "I need to feed her." "Okay." She moved to the rocking chair, settling in with practiced ease. Jaemin watched from the doorway, feeling both necessary and intrusive at the same time. "You can stay," Amara said without looking up. "If you want." So he did.
Before you continue, you have two choices right now. Keep listening to short previews, or unlock the full stories. You get 30 complete stories, over 30 hours of exclusive audio, no ads, no interruptions. Listen anytime, anywhere. Scan the QR code on the screen now, or click the pinned link in the comments. What was never said continues there.
He sat on the floor, back against the wall, and watched as Amara fed Hana. The intimacy of it, the quietness, the way the world shrank to just the two of them. "I want to be part of this," he said after a while. "You are." "No, I mean really part of it. Not just the guy who pays for everything and shows up when it's convenient." He exhaled slowly. "I want the late nights, the crying, the diaper changes, all of it." Amara's hand stilled. She looked at him, surprise clear on her face. "You mean that?" "Yeah, I do. Jaemin, you run an empire. You have meetings, deals, people who depend on you. And now I have a daughter who depends on me more." The words settled between them, heavy and true. Amara's eyes softened. "You're serious." "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." She looked down at Hana, who was nursing contentedly, her tiny hand resting on Amara's chest. "Okay, but you have to actually be here, not just physically, emotionally, because she's going to need that." "I know. And if it gets too dangerous, then I'll handle it." "How?" "I don't know yet." He met her eyes. "But I will." Amara nodded slowly, then softly. "She's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one." That night, Jaemin sat in the living room, laptop open, reviewing contracts and shipment schedules. Business didn't stop just because his life had tilted sideways, but for the first time he found himself distracted. Hana was asleep in the nursery. Amara was resting in the bedroom. The apartment was quiet. And he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. His phone buzzed. A message from Minjun. Chen backed off, for now. Jaemin typed back. "Good. Keep eyes on him." "You planning to come back to the office?" He hesitated. Then, "Eventually. Running things remotely for now." "Boss, they're going to see this as weakness." "Let them." A pause. Then, "Understood." Jaemin set the phone down and leaned back, rubbing his eyes. Minjun was right. The moment he stepped back, rivals would test him, push boundaries, try to take what was his. But what was the alternative? Miss Hana's first smile, her first laugh, the tiny, irreplaceable moments that made up a life? No. He'd built an empire. Now he had to figure out how to protect it without losing the only thing that mattered. A soft cry broke the silence. Jaemin was on his feet before he realized it, moving toward the nursery. Amara appeared in the hallway at the same time, her hair messy from sleep. "I've got her," she said. "Let me." She paused, then nodded. He stepped into the nursery and lifted Hana from the crib. She was warm and squirmy, her little face scrunched up in displeasure. Hey, he murmured, holding her close. "It's okay. I'm here." Hana's cries softened, turning into little hiccups. He swayed gently, the motion instinctive even though he'd never done this before. Amara leaned against the doorway, watching. "You're a natural," she said softly. "Don't sound so surprised." "I'm not. She trailed off, then smiled. "I'm glad you're here." "Me too." Hannah's eyes fluttered closed, her breathing evening out. Jamin kept swaying, not ready to put her down yet. Because this quiet, ordinary moment was the most extraordinary thing he'd ever experienced, and he'd fight a war to keep it. The first week was chaos wrapped in tenderness. Jamin learned things he'd never imagined needing to know. How to hold a bottle at the right angle so Hannah wouldn't get gas. How to fold a diaper so it didn't leak. How to read the difference between her hungry cry and her tired cry and her "I just want to be held" cry. He also learned that 3 hours of sleep felt like a luxury, and that watching Hannah's tiny chest rise and fall while she slept was more addictive than any power he'd ever held. But the world outside the penthouse hadn't stopped. His phone rang constantly. Messages piled up. Minjun sent daily reports about territorial movements, supply chain disruptions, and rivals circling like sharks who'd smelled blood in the water. Jamin handled it all from the apartment. Conference calls during Hannah's naps. Encrypted messages while he rocked her at 3 a.m. Decisions that moved millions of dollars, made while wearing a spit-up stained shirt. Amara noticed. "You can't do this forever," she said one evening. They were in the kitchen, him making tea, her folding impossibly small onesies fresh from the dryer. "Do what?" "Run an empire from a nursery." He poured hot water over the tea bag, watching it steep. "Why not?" "Because eventually, they're going to demand you show your face, reassert control." She set down a onesie covered in tiny elephants. "And when that happens, what then?" "Then I go, for a few hours, and come back. And if something happens while you're gone?" His jaw tightened. "I've got security." "Security isn't the same as you being here." Amara's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm not saying you can't do both. I'm saying you can't do both perfectly. And trying to will break you." He wanted to argue, to insist he could handle it. That he was Jamin Kong, the man who'd built an empire from nothing, who'd survived attempts on his life, who'd negotiated with people who communicated in bullets and blood. But the truth was, he was exhausted. Not just physically, emotionally. The constant calculation of risk. The weight of knowing that every decision he made could ripple into danger for Hannah and Amara. "I don't know how to walk away from it," he admitted quietly. Amara moved closer, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "I'm not asking you to walk away. I'm asking you to delegate, to trust the people you've put in place." She paused. "You built an empire because you're smart, Jamin. Not because you do everything yourself." He looked at her. Really looked. At the woman who'd left him to protect their daughter. Who'd come back not because it was easy, but because she believed he could be better than the world he'd created. "You sound like you've been thinking about this," he said. "I have." She smiled softly. "Because I want this to work. Not just for Hannah, for us." The word "us" hung in the air between them. They hadn't talked about what they were, what they could be. 9 months ago, they'd been together, messy and passionate and real. Then she'd left. And now they were. What? Co-parents? Former lovers? Something undefined and fragile? "I want that too," he said. Before either of them could say more, Hannah's cry cut through the apartment. Amara sighed, already moving toward the nursery. I swear she has a sixth sense for interrupting important conversations. Jamin followed her, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Maybe she's protecting you." "From what?" "From me saying something that'll make you want to stay." Amara glanced back at him, something unreadable in her eyes. "I'm already staying, Jamin. For now. For as long as it's safe." There it was. The condition. The invisible line he couldn't cross. In the nursery, Amara lifted Hannah, soothing her with practiced ease. Jamin stood in the doorway, watching them, and felt the weight of impossible choices settling on his shoulders. He could have everything he wanted, or he could keep them safe, but he was starting to realize he couldn't do both. 2 days later, Minjun showed up at the penthouse unannounced. Jamin answered the door, Hannah asleep against his shoulder, and raised an eyebrow. This better be important. Minjun's expression was grim. It is. They moved to the living room. Amara appeared from the bedroom, taking in the scene with wary eyes. "What's going on?" she asked. "Business," Jamin said. Then to Minjun, "Talk." Minjun glanced at Amara, hesitant. "She stays," Jamin said firmly. Minjun nodded. "Chen's crew hit one of our shipments last night, took everything, left 2 of our guys in the hospital." Jamin's grip on Hana tightened reflexively. He forced himself to relax. And Chen's sending a message. "He thinks you're weak. Distracted." Minjun's gaze flicked to Hana. "He's not wrong. Watch it. I'm not trying to disrespect you, boss. I'm telling you what everyone on the street is saying. You disappeared. You're not showing up to meetings. You're running things from a distance." Minjun leaned forward. "They think you've gone soft." Amara's hand went to her mouth. Jamin's expression was ice. "Then they're idiots." "Maybe, but idiots with guns are still dangerous." Silence. Jamin looked down at Hana, at her perfect, tiny face, the rise and fall of her breathing, the way her little fist curled against his chest. "What do you need from me?" he asked, his voice low. "A show of force, something that reminds everyone why you're in charge." Minjun hesitated. "And it needs to be you, not me, not anyone else. You." Amara made a soft sound of protest. Jamin met her eyes across the room. Saw the fear there, the knowledge that this moment had been inevitable. "When?" he asked, still looking at Amara. "Tomorrow night. There's a meeting, all the families. Chen will be there. If you don't show, it's over. And if I do show, then you remind them who you are." Jamin nodded slowly. Then he stood, carefully transferring Hana to her bassinet. She stirred but didn't wake. He turned to Minjun. "Set it up. I'll be there. Boss, I'll be there," he repeated, his voice hard. Final. Minjun nodded and left. The moment the door closed, Amara spoke. "You can't go. I have to." "Jamin, this is exactly what I was afraid of. You're choosing—" "I'm not choosing anything." He crossed to her, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "I'm protecting us. All of us. If I don't go, they'll keep pushing. And eventually they'll push too far. They'll find out about you. About Hana. And if you go and something happens to you—" Her voice cracked. "What then? You think she won't care that her father died in some gang war? It's not a gang war. It's a meeting. You know what I mean." He did. Jamin pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her even as she resisted. "I will come back," he said into her hair. "I promise." "You can't promise that." "Yes, I can." He pulled back, making her look at him. "Because I have too much to lose now. I'm not the same man I was a month ago. I'm not going to be reckless. I'm going to walk in, make my point, and walk out." Amara's eyes searched his face. "And what if they don't let you?" "Then I'll make them." She shook her head, tears spilling over. "This is why I left. This is exactly why. I know." He wiped her tears with his thumbs. "But I'm still here, and I'm still fighting, not for power, for her. For you." "I can't lose you," she whispered. "You won't." He kissed her then. Soft, desperate. A promise wrapped in fear and hope. When they pulled apart, Amara was crying harder. "I hate this," she said. "I know. I hate your world. I know. But I love you." The words hit him like a bullet. He hadn't heard them in 9 months. Hadn't let himself hope he'd hear them again. "I love you too," he said, his voice rough. "That's why I'm doing this." The next night, Yamin dressed in a black suit, crisp white shirt, no tie. He looked like what he was, power personified. Amara watched from the bedroom doorway, Hana in her arms. "Please be careful," she said. "I will. And come back." "I will." He crossed to her, pressing a kiss to Hana's forehead. Then Amara's lips. "I love you," he said again, because saying it once wasn't enough. "I love you too," He left before he could change his mind. The meeting was held in a warehouse on the edge of the industrial district. Neutral ground, supposedly. Jaemin arrived with Min-jun and 4 of his most trusted men. Security was tight. Everyone was searched at the door, weapons confiscated. The families didn't trust each other, but they followed the rules. Inside, the warehouse had been converted into a makeshift conference room, a long table, chairs. Dim lighting that made everyone look like shadows. Chen was already there. Mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper smile. "Kang," he said, standing. "Thought you weren't going to show." Thought wrong. Jaemin took his seat at the head of the table, because that's where he belonged. The other families filed in, representatives from the Italians, the Russians, the Irish, everyone with a stake in the city's underground. The meeting began. Business was discussed, territories, shipments, disputes. Jaemin listened, spoke when necessary, and watched Chen the entire time. Chen was testing him, little comments, veiled insults, suggestions that maybe it was time for new leadership. Jaemin let him talk, and when Chen finally pushed too far, suggesting that Jaemin had lost his edge, Jaemin smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "You think I've gone soft?" he asked, his voice calm. "I think you've been distracted." "By what?" Chen shrugged. "Rumor is you've got a new interest, something keeping you busy." The implication was clear. Jaemin's expression didn't change. "Rumor's wrong." "Is it?" "Yeah." He leaned forward. "But let's say it wasn't. Let's say I did have something, or someone, I cared about. You think that makes me weak?" Chen's smile widened. "Doesn't it?" "No." Jaemin's voice dropped, ice cold. "It makes me dangerous. Because now I have something to protect, and I will burn this entire city to the ground before I let anyone threaten it." The room went silent. Jaemin stood, buttoning his jacket. "I built this empire. I can destroy it just as easily, and anyone stupid enough to test me will find out exactly how far I'm willing to go." He looked at each man at the table, one by one. "We clear?" No one spoke. Chen's smile had vanished. "Good." Jaemin nodded to Min-jun. "We're done here." They walked out, and Jaemin kept his promise. He came home. The days after the meeting were different. Jaemin had proven his point. The families backed off. Chen disappeared for a while. Rumor said he'd relocated to the West Coast, looking for easier territory. But proving his strength had come with a cost. Because Amara had been right. He couldn't do both perfectly. Something had to give. He'd been home for 2 weeks straight, working remotely, when Min-jun called with news that changed everything. "We've got an opportunity," Min-jun said. "International, high level. The kind of deal that could set us up for the next decade." Jaemin sat in the nursery, watching Hana sleep. "What's the catch?" "You have to fly to Hong Kong. 3 days, maybe 4, face-to-face negotiations." His chest tightened. "When?" "Next week." Jaemin closed his eyes. 3 days. 4, maybe. It didn't sound like much. But Hana was only 3 weeks old. He'd already missed 9 months. "I'll think about it," he said. "Boss, this is huge. We can't send someone else. They want you." "I said I'll think about it." He ended the call and sat there in the dim light of the nursery, the sound of Hana's breathing filling the space. Amara appeared in the doorway, her silhouette backlit from the hallway. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. "Work." She came in, sitting on the floor beside his chair. "Tell me." So he did. When he finished, Amara was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want to do?" she asked finally. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." He looked at her. "I want to stay here, with you, with her. But this deal could change everything. Give me leverage to step back, to delegate more." He ran a hand through his hair. 3 days in Hong Kong could buy us years of stability. Amara nodded slowly. "Or it could get you killed. It's a negotiation, not a hit. In your world, what's the difference?" He didn't have an answer for that. Hana stirred, making soft sounds. Amara reached into the crib, her hand gentle on Hana's chest, soothing her back to sleep. If you go, Amara said quietly, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll come back, not just alive, but whole. She looked at him, her eyes fierce. Because she needs you, and so do I. I promise. And promise me that this is the last time. That after this, you find a way to step back. For real. He wanted to promise that too, but he'd learned not to make promises he couldn't keep. I'll try, he said instead. That's not good enough. It's all I've got. Amara's jaw tightened. Then she stood, leaving the nursery without another word. Jamien stayed there, watching Hana, and wondered how many times he could choose between two impossible things before something broke. He left for Hong Kong 4 days later. The goodbye was brutal. Hana cried when he handed her to Amara, like she somehow knew. Amara didn't cry, but her silence was worse. 3 days, he said. 3 days, she repeated. I'll call every night. Okay. He kissed Hana's forehead, then Amara's lips. I love you. I know. Not, I love you too. Just I know. He left before he could change his mind. Hong Kong was exactly what he expected. High stakes, high pressure. Men in expensive suits negotiating deals that would never see the light of day. The meetings went well. Better than well. By the 3rd day, they'd hammered out terms that would triple their revenue and cut their risk in half. Jamin should have been celebrating. Instead, he was on the phone with Amara at midnight, listening to Hana cry in the background. She won't settle, Amara said, exhaustion heavy in her voice. I've tried everything. Is she sick? No. She's just fussy. I think she misses you. The words gutted him. I'll be home tomorrow, he said. I know. Again, not I love you. Just I know. The call ended, and Jamien stared at the ceiling of his hotel room, wondering if he'd already lost them. He landed back in the city 36 hours later. The apartment was quiet when he arrived. Too quiet. Amara? He called. No answer. Panic flared. He moved quickly through the apartment. Living room empty, kitchen empty, bedroom. She was there. In the rocking chair. Hana asleep on her chest. Both of them looked exhausted. Relief hit him so hard he nearly staggered. Hey, he said softly. Amara looked up and he saw it immediately. The distance. The wall she'd built while he was gone. You're back, she said. Neutral, careful. I'm back. How was the trip? Successful. Good. Silence. He crossed the room, kneeling beside the chair. Amara? She cried every night, Amara said, her voice flat. The first night she cried for 2 hours straight. Nothing I did helped. The second night was worse. By the third, she'd exhausted herself. Guilt twisted in his chest. I'm sorry. I know you are. She looked down at Hana. But sorry doesn't change the fact that you left. I had to. I know that too. Her voice cracked. I know you had to go. I know it was important. But Yemen. She finally met his eyes. She needed you. And you weren't here. I'm here now. For how long? Until the next deal? The next crisis? The next thing that's more important than us? Nothing is more important than you. Then prove it. The words were a challenge, a plea. He didn't know how. Hana woke then, blinking up at him with those dark, serious eyes. She didn't smile. Didn't reach for him, just stared, like she was deciding whether to trust him. Hey, sweetheart, he whispered, his voice breaking. I'm sorry I left. I'm so sorry. Amara stood, placing Hana in his arms. She's going to need more than apologies. What does she need? You, here, present, not halfway around the world making deals? I'm trying. Try harder. Amara's voice was fierce. Because I can't do this alone, and I won't. She left the room. Jamin stood there, holding his daughter, and realized he'd been so focused on protecting them from external threats that he'd missed the one right in front of him. He was the threat. Not because he was dangerous, but because he couldn't let go. That night, Jamin made a decision. He called Minjun. I'm stepping back, he said. Silence. Then, what? You heard me. I'm delegating, restructuring. You're going to handle day-to-day operations. Boss, I can't. Yes, you can. I trained you for this. Jamin's voice was firm. I'll still be involved. Strategy. Major decisions. But the rest? That's on you. Why now? Because I have a daughter and a woman I love, and if I don't choose them, I'm going to lose them. Minjun was quiet for a long moment. Then, understood. I've got this. I know you do. Jamin ended the call and went to find Amara. She was in the bedroom, staring out the window at the city lights. I'm stepping back, he said. She turned. What? From the business. I'm delegating to Minjun. I'll still be involved, but not like before. He crossed to her. You were right. I can't do both. Not the way I've been trying. Amara's eyes filled with tears. You mean it? Yeah, I do. Jamin. She shook her head, disbelief and hope warring on her face. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He cupped her face in his hands. I love you. I love Hana, and I'm not losing you again. She kissed him then. Hard, desperate, like she was trying to convince herself it was real. When they pulled apart, they were both crying. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. And for the first time in weeks, Jamin felt like maybe, just maybe, they'd be okay. 6 months later, everything had changed. Hana was sitting up now, laughing, reaching for things with chubby hands that grabbed onto fingers and refused to let go. She had Jamin's eyes and Amara's smile, and she owned both of them completely. Jamin had kept his promise. He'd stepped back, restructured, built a team he could trust to handle operations while he focused on strategy from home. It wasn't perfect. There were still late-night calls, still crises that required his attention. But he was there for the important things. Hana's first laugh, her first time sleeping through the night. The morning she rolled over for the first time and looked so surprised that both Jamin and Amara had burst into tears. The apartment had transformed too. No longer a sterile showpiece, but a home. Toys scattered across the living room. Hana's giggle echoing off the walls. The smell of Amara's cooking in the kitchen. Normal things. Beautiful things. She's going to be walking soon, Amara said one evening. They were on the floor, watching Hana practice pulling herself up on the coffee table. Don't remind me, Jamin said. I'm not ready. Amara laughed. You're never going to be ready. Probably not. Hana wobbled, lost her balance, and plopped down on her diaper-padded bottom. She didn't cry, just looked at them with those serious eyes, then reached for the table again. She's stubborn, Amara observed. Wonder where she gets that. Jamin smirked. Definitely you. Definitely you. They smiled at each other, and Jamin felt it again. That overwhelming sense of rightness. Like everything he'd done, every choice, every sacrifice, had led to this moment. I've been thinking, Amara said after a while. Dangerous. She swatted his arm playfully. I'm serious. Okay, what about? Us. She looked at him, something nervous in her expression. What we are. What do you want us to be? I don't know. I mean, we're living together. Raising Hana together. We love each other. She bit her lip. But we never really defined it. Jamin reached out, taking her hand. Do we need to? Maybe. I want to know where we stand. He pulled her closer, his arm wrapping around her waist. We stand right here, together. You, me, and her. He nodded toward Hana, who was now chewing on a plastic block. That's all the definition I need. Amara's eyes softened. That simple? That's simple. You're sure? Amara. He turned her to face him fully. I let you walk away once because I didn't know how to be what you needed. I'm not making that mistake again. So yeah, I'm sure. She kissed him. Soft and sweet and full of promise. Hana made a noise, something between a squeal and a protest. And they both laughed, pulling apart. She's jealous. Jamin said. She's 6 months old. Still jealous. Amara shook her head, but she was smiling. That weekend, Jamin took them to the park. It was a small thing. Normal. The kind of thing families did. But for him, it was monumental. Because 6 months ago, he couldn't have done this. The risk would have been too high. Too many eyes. Too many potential threats. But he'd systematically eliminated those threats. Not with violence, with strategy. He'd brokered peace, made alliances, restructured his organization so cleanly that most of his old rivals didn't even see him as a player anymore. He'd become invisible. And in his world, invisible meant safe. Amara spread a blanket on the grass while Jamin held Hana. She was fascinated by everything, the trees, the sky, the other children playing nearby. She loves it, Amara said, sitting down. Jamin joined her, settling Hana on the blanket between them. Yeah, she does. They watched her explore the grass with her hands, pulling at blades, laughing when the wind blew. This is what I wanted, Amara said softly. When I left, this is what I pictured. Me too. She looked at him, surprised. Really? Yeah, I just didn't know how to get here. He reached over, lacing his fingers with hers. Thank you for coming back, for giving me another chance. Thank you for changing. I didn't do it for me. I know, but you still did it. Hana grabbed Amara's finger, pulling it to her mouth to gnaw on. Amara laughed, and Jamin felt something settle in his chest. Peace. He'd spent his entire adult life chasing power. Turns out, what he really needed was this. That night, after Hana was asleep, Jamin and Amara sat on the balcony overlooking the city. The lights stretched out endlessly, a sea of possibilities. Do you miss it? Amara asked. Miss what? The life, the power, the control. He thought about it, really thought. Sometimes, he admitted. Not the violence, not the fear, but the feeling of building something, of being in charge. You're still in charge. Of what? This. She gestured to the apartment behind them. Our family, her future. He smiled. That's different. Better different? Yeah, better different. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Amara spoke again. I'm proud of you, you know. For what? For choosing us. For walking away from everything you built because it was the right thing to do. I didn't walk away. I just reprioritized. Still, it takes strength to do that. He pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. I love you. I love you too. 2 weeks later, Jamin woke to the sound of breaking glass. Instinct kicked in immediately. He was out of bed before his brain fully caught up, moving toward the sound. The living room. Someone was inside. His blood turned to ice. Hannah. Amara. He grabbed the gun he kept hidden in the bedroom. Old habits die hard. And moved silently down the hallway. The figure in the living room was small, wiry, moving quickly. Jamin raised the gun. Don't move. The figure froze, then turned. And Jamin's world stopped. Because the face staring back at him was young. Familiar in a way that made no sense. A boy. Maybe 16, 17, with Jamin's eyes. Who the hell are you? Jamin demanded. The boy's jaw was set, defiant. Your son. Behind him, Amara's gasp cut through the silence. Jamin didn't lower the gun. Couldn't. Because his mind was spinning, trying to make sense of something impossible. That's not funny, he said, his voice low. I'm not joking. The boy took a step forward. My name is Jin. My mother was Hye-Jin Park. You knew her 15 years ago, before you were. This. He gestured around. She died 3 months ago. Cancer. And before she did, she told me to find you. Jamin's hands started to shake. Hye-Jin. He remembered her. A lifetime ago. Before the Empire. Before the blood. When he was still figuring out who he was. They'd been together for a few months. Then she'd disappeared. He'd never known why. She never told you, Jin said, reading his expression. Because she thought you'd be better off not knowing. that I'd be better off. His voice cracked. But now she's gone, and I have nowhere else to go. Amara moved to Jamin's side, her hand on his arm. Jamin. He couldn't speak. Because if this was true, if this boy was his son, then everything he'd thought he knew about his life was a lie. Hannah started crying from the nursery. The sound snapped Jamin back to reality. He lowered the gun. Stay here. He went to the nursery, lifting Hannah, soothing her automatically even though his mind was chaos. When he returned, Amara was standing in front of Jin, her arms crossed. You broke into our home, she said. I'm sorry. I didn't know how else. You could have knocked. Would you have let me in? Fair point. Jamin studied the boy, really looked, and saw it. The shape of his nose, the set of his jaw, the way he stood, tense, ready to fight. It was like looking at a ghost of himself. We need proof, Amara said quietly. Jin reached into his jacket, slowly, carefully, and pulled out a folded envelope. She left this. Medical records. A letter. Jamin took it, one-handed, Hannah still in his other arm. Inside was a birth certificate. Jin Kang Park. Father, Jamin Kang, and a letter in Haya Jin's handwriting. Jamin, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and our son has found you. I'm sorry I never told you. I thought I was protecting both of you. You were just starting to build something, and I didn't want to be the anchor that dragged you down. Jin is a good kid, stubborn, smart, kind. He deserves better than what I could give him. Please, take care of him. Heejin Jamin's vision blurred. He had a son, a 15-year-old son, who'd just lost his mother, who'd broken into his home looking for a father he'd never known. Amara was watching him, her expression unreadable. What do we do? She whispered. Jamin looked at Jin, at this boy, this stranger, who was his blood, then at Hannah, still in his arms, then at Amara, and realized his carefully rebuilt life had just shattered again. We figure it out, he said finally. Because what else could he say? Jin's shoulders sagged with relief, and Jamin wondered if he'd ever stop paying for the choices he'd made before he knew better. The end, did Jamin just discover he has a secret teenage son? How will Amara react? What about Hannah? And who is Jin really? Comment Part 2. If you need to know what happens next, the more comments, the faster episode Arrow 2 drops. Let's hit 500 comments and I'll release it this week. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the continuation of this story.
What you've heard so far is only the surface. These stories weren't meant to be consumed in fragments. They were created to be experienced from beginning to end. When you unlock full access, you receive 30 complete audio stories, over 30 hours of immersive storytelling, private members-only area not available on YouTube. No ads, no interruptions. Listen on any device, anytime. Lifetime access. And that's not all. You also get access to an exclusive private community where you can talk directly with me and decide your own stories once a week. But be aware, access for new members is closing. Scan the QR code now or click the pinned link in the comments. What was never said continues now. If you choose to enter,